A very good morning to you all and a warm welcome to VPN, that's Views, People and News 0933 KFM, that is Lucky Dube, Taxman, opening us up into our conversation for this morning, which is about Uganda's $500 billion dream. And we're asking, is it a catalyst or an illusion on the road to economic destiny? My name is Judith Atim. It is 6 minutes past 9 o'clock, and once again, a warm welcome to the show. Of course, today we're delving into this topic that has Ugandans talking, which is the nation's ambitious $500 billion GDP dream. On Thursday, as you all know, Finance Minister Matia Kasaija unveiled the budget estimates for the financial year 2025-2026, themed full monetization of the Ugandan economy through commercial agriculture, industrialization, expanding and broadening services, digital transformation and market access. This year's budget, a staggering 72.3 trillion shillings, approximately $20 billion, aims to be 60% financed by domestic revenue, while the remaining 40% from borrowing and grants. And also, financial year 2025-26 marks the first year of implementing the National Development Plan 4, which sets its sights on an extraordinary tenfold increase in Uganda's GDP from approximately $53 billion in financial year 2023-24 to a monumental $500 billion by 2030. The budget priorities are strategically aligned with 4 anchor areas and their enablers. That's agro-industrial development, tourism development, mineral-based development, including oil and gas, and then science, technology, and innovation. These, of course, are supported by critical enablers, 10 of them, but I'll just read a few. That is peace and security, human capital development, full economic monetization, infrastructure development, regional integration, etc. And the question on everyone's mind is, how realistic is this $500 billion target? Is it a truly achievable dream or an ambitious illusion? Well, today I'm honored to have 2 distinguished guests joining us to unpack this crucial discussion. We have with us Mr. Ramadan Gobi, the Permanent Secretary to the Treasury, PSST, from the Ministry of Finance, Planning and Economic Development. Good morning, Mr. Gobi.
Good morning, Judith. Always a pleasure to be here.
The most optimistic man you'll ever meet in Uganda. I love his optimism always.
Always it pays to be optimistic. To live longer.
Thank you, because Mr. Gobi will offer the government's perspective on this ambitious plan. But also representing the voice from the civil society, we welcome Mr. Dickson Kamugisha from the African Institute for Energy Governance, which is a leading organization working on energy governance issues in Uganda. Good morning, Mr. Kamugisha.
Good morning, Judith, and good morning, listeners. Thank you.
He's the executive director. And of course, he brings a vital independent voice to these discussions, particularly given the prominence of oil and gas in the nation's economic projections. But before we delve into our conversation this morning, let's take a quick look. Dickens Kamugisha, why did I call you Dickson? Before we go into our conversation this morning, let us take a quick look at what made it big in the news this week. Because starting with Wednesday, when the government decided to suspend the automatic express penalty scheme for 1 month to engage all concerned groups and resolve the bottlenecks in its implementation. The implementation of the auto EPS, which began 2 weeks ago, had seen motorists slapped with fines as high as 20% of their motor vehicle value due to speeding. And we also saw public transporters complaining that they were bound to run out of business. After the system's suspension, motorists, including taxi owners and drivers, also decided to suspend their planned sit-down strike, which was slated to commence on Monday the 16th. This is, of course, intended to pave way for further engagement. And on Thursday, the Finance Minister Matia Kasaija read the national budget for the financial year 2025-2026, outlining a comprehensive plan intended to transform Uganda into a fully monetized, industrialized, and inclusive economy. The 72 trillion shilling budget builds on the achievements and aspirations of Vision 2040 under the newly launched National Development Plan 4 to propel Uganda into a $500 billion economy. And this ambition will form the center of our main discussion today. Our panelists will be looking at the viability and also the speed bumps ahead as we move into this ambitious plan. And also, as a listener, we'll open the phone lines and allow you to call in and weigh in on the road ahead. Moving on, Monday was a public holiday and we commemorated Heroes Day, where 50 Ugandans were recognized for their exceptional and dedicated service to Uganda's liberation, positively influencing society and contributing to Uganda's development. The 41 men and 9 women were, according to government, selected for their bravery, commitment and selfless efforts that have significantly impacted the nation. President Yoweri Museveni decorated them with medals at an event held in Lyantonde district under the theme, The Legacy and Ideals of Our Heroes, a Memorable Inspiration. And on the political scene, Robert Kyagulanyi Ssentamu was on Wednesday re-elected unopposed as president of the National Unity Platform Party during their delegates conference held at one of the party's offices in Kamwocha. Lewis Rubongoya was also unopposed on the Secretary General's seat, while MP Alan Sewanyana, who was challenging Joel Senyonyi on party spokesperson position, pulled out. Kyagulanyi has led NUP since its transformation from the former National Unity, Reconciliation and Development Party in 2020. And meanwhile, aspirants for various political seats have continued to pick expression of interest forms from the NUP headquarters at Makerere Kavule, while those aspiring to contest on the NRM party flag also continue to do so at the NRM's electoral office in Nakasero. And from court on Thursday, retired Colonel Dr. Kiza Besigye and his co-accused Haji Obeid Lutale Kamulegea formally requested Nakawa Chief Magistrate Christine Nantege to recuse herself from further presiding over their case, citing bias, incompetence, and judicial misconduct. The request was presented in Nakawa Magistrates Court by the accused's legal team, led by Arias Lukwago, who also submitted a formal complaint to the Judicial Service Commission, accusing Nantege of judicial malpractice, abuse of authority, and violations of their constitutional rights. The two had returned for a hearing in which the state seeks to confiscate and conduct forensic analysis on their mobile phones as part of the ongoing treason case. And on the international scene, thousands of people have rallied at demonstrations nationwide to oppose immigration and customs enforcement raids in the United States. Hundreds were arrested or detained in several cities, including Seattle, New York City, and Chicago, and more are expected to be picked up today. U.S. President Donald Trump and his Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth authorized the deployment of about 700 Marines and more than 5,000 National Guard troops to Los Angeles to quell protests in the state. And elsewhere, there has been a night of intense fighting between Israel and Iran, with the two sides exchanging airstrikes. Ballistic missiles hit parts of Israel overnight, with a number of alerts issued for the public to take shelter. Reports indicate dozens of people being injured, while an unspecified number has been killed. And gentlemen, that's it. You can just pick either issue, one or two, very quickly, and just comment, share your thoughts. And I'll start with you, Mr. Gobi.
Thank you very much. For me, the event is only one, the budget.
Mm-hmm.
And I know we are going to discuss it comprehensively, so I will not spend a lot of time on it. The other issue perhaps I can comment on briefly is the issue of the fines on the roads. The issue, I think, is in the structuring of these fines. Everywhere in the world, when you commit traffic offenses, you
pay.
Mm-hmm. And it's the only viable way of keeping people disciplined on the road. But I think the way these were structured were a bit on the high side, and some of them illogical. If you look at the speed limits themselves, I heard that on some of the highways they had put the limit as low as 30 kilometers per hour. Maybe that could be an issue. So we should know that as government, there is need to regulate these areas. So we shall have to review now that it's an interest of everybody, right from His Excellency the President. I'm sure these are going to be reviewed, and come back as logical fines. But we are going to monitor the way we use our roads and the way we use our vehicles and other automobiles, because one of the things that we are going to do differently going forward to achieve the tenfold growth we are talking about is to clean up, is to ensure that we can enforce the rules in Uganda. Uganda, sometimes we are behaving as if we are a different species or society in the world, different from others. If you see the way we use the roads, the way we conduct ourselves, we need to regulate ourselves, and that one is going to be enforced so that we have trade order, we have proper use of public spaces. You know, public goods are supposed to be non-rival, but in Uganda there is rivalry on public goods. A road is a public good, which means that when you are using the road, you shouldn't stop others or compete with them in the way they are using it. So if you are driving your car on the opposite side of the road at 180 kilometers per hour, you are really competing with others, out-competing them. And putting their lives in danger. So there, the government, one of the roles of government is to ensure that we enforce proper usage of public goods. So I think much as it is under suspension, it's a good way to go, only that they were badly structured, perhaps, and also some of them were outright illogical.
Thank you, Mr. Gobi. Let me come to you, Mr. Kamugisha. Just your quick thoughts very quickly.
For me, actually, I would say whatever we are, even the PS talked about, it is the consequence of politics. If we don't, because these parties you are talking about, now we are going to be in campaigns, the politics, how they affect the budget. If you go and talk with the IMF, World Bank, they say actually Ugandan technical people, they are very, very good. And unfortunately, the politics is the one that keeps on causing trouble to these people. Even the EPS penalties, when we talk about how did they come up with those
figures,
provisions, even not figures, but just you've not consulted the people who are affected, you've not done anything to make sure that they know within a minute and you find the entire public is crying. For me, I would believe that it is not the technical people who were thinking, the politicians, but the entire system. Even when we are talking about budget, how do you expect Ugandans to be disciplined if you have like the city like ours? Borders running all over the place, and I don't know where they are coming from. Then you have these potholes, dust. Sometimes you live in the city and you feel really, should I take responsibility? You cannot. And then when you are driving, you want to follow the rules, you have these officials. They come and push you from the road, and it is a struggle to live in the country, our country here. And most of these things, I don't think it is about lack of money. It is not about like not having the laws. But if the people who are supposed to enforce the laws, to implement the laws, are the ones violating the same laws, how do you expect the rest of the citizens to respect them?
So the president said the penalties were not about money, but rather this is actually a security issues. The cameras being mounted were not to grab people and penalize them just because the government wants money.
But I don't think maybe he's just talking about politics. Because if you want to ensure that security is there, you don't need to harass the citizens. There are many other ways for you to make sure that you can guarantee security using those cameras and everything without. Because you look at the population in this city, these taxi commuters, how much money do they make in a day? And if you're going to say, oh, you drive at 30, drive at what? Even to make it worse, I don't think like accidents or the speed has been a problem in the city. Actually, what has been a problem has been the
chaos,
jam, the chaos, the potholes. But for you to introduce these penalties in the city before you deal with the highways, At least first deal with highways. It's where there is a problem of accidents and everything, overspeeding, but not in the city.
Okay. Thank you very much for your thoughts. It's time for us to take a break, and then when we return, we now dive straight into our discussion for today. This is VPN. Stay. Welcome back from the break. Is Uganda's $500 billion dream a catalyst or illusion on the road to economic destiny? That's now what we are going into. And I'm going to start with the PSST. Of course, this figure is ambitious by all means, but also from the Ministry of Finance, from the perspective of the Ministry of Finance, what are the core assumptions or strategies that are, underpinning this projection for the tenfold growth?
Thank you. Thank you very much. Judith, Uganda has been growing in the past 25 or 30 years at an average of about 6.5%. Mm-hmm. And it achieved minimum recovery from the economic downturn which we had faced as a result of wars and the mismanagement of the economy. But that growth, much as it has changed the number of things, Uganda is, of course, so different from what it used to be. We needed some second generation reforms to get the economy to another level. What is that level? Transformation. We needed to see that as GDP expands, there is also incomes of households growing. There are jobs which are productive and decent being created, and the revenue given to government. Sometimes I enjoy debates in Uganda. Someone is saying, look at Kampala, the infrastructure is bad. But then that person is saying, but now the taxes. But now in Uganda we tax, as I always tell you here, Judith, 14% of GDP. It's one of the lowest, not in Africa, in the world. It's one of the lowest in the world. Our tax to GDP ratio. The average for ESC, here, just our neighbors, is 16.8%. We are 14%. That's an area which we must work on. And therefore, we thought that if we did a few things differently, first, prioritization and the consensus building. In Uganda, we have also a weakness of wanting to do everything, and we end up doing nothing effectively. So we said, we tasked a team of our smart economists. Please, if you look at this economy, what can we do differently? In which areas for us to achieve some good growth, sustained good growth? And by the way, to get to the $500 billion requires us to maintain an average of 8.6% growth per annum.
From the current 6.4?
Yes, from whatever. Once we get 8.6 and sustain it for the next 15, 18 years, we shall be there. The numbers have shown. But it's not about those numbers just, but also the culture. Changing a number of things, the way we do things in Uganda must change. But before I go to the culture, we identified 4 areas which can accelerate the growth. And we summarized them as ATMs. You know the ATM? Mm-hmm. Its job is to draw money from a bank account, but you can't draw money from where you did not invest. So we're looking at what are these areas that we need to get the public sector, but also the private sector and the partners invest. And the ATMs is an acronym for those areas, agriculture. But agriculture, we need to stop looking at it as growing potatoes in Kabale, growing some simu in Judith's place, growing some, bananas in Masaka and coffee. And we say agriculture. People usually look at it as production. we want to start looking at agriculture as a value chain and as a business. We are looking at how do we transform agriculture right from research up to the plate. And along that value chain, we must carry out deliberate investments. And it is from this budget that you're going to see that we are budgeting in a value chain approach. We have budgeted right from research to production, and in production you're putting emphasis on the soft spots, the soft areas which we haven't been put a lot of attention to, like extension services. How do you ensure that a farmer in Igulu, a farmer in Butambala, a farmer in Chisoro, across the country, doing different enterprises, has access to these people, agronomists, the scientists who are advising on which type of soil they should use to grow what and so on. These people had been recruited by government, and we are paying them salary. But we are not facilitating them, giving them the tools to get to the farmers. So we are saying, let's do that. Then look at water for production, look at the seed themselves and breeds, look at the mechanization and so on and so forth. So production needs to change so that we look at now productivity. How much does a farmer get from an acre? How much does a farmer get from his labor himself, the effort he has put in? Even if it is coffee, how much does he harvest from a coffee plant, and so on and so forth? And all of those are a function of these factors I'm mentioning. Then you look at value addition, the post-harvest management, the handling, the bulking, the ensuring that you clean up this produce and so on. And until you market this product. And across different value chains, we have started with the 7 key value chains. Now, agro-industrialization is one of them. We are saying if we did the right things, agriculture alone can bring us $20 billion per annum by 2040. Currently, it hardly gives us $2 billion. So we want to grow it tenfold itself. Then you come to tourism, tourism development. Remember our ATMs. The A is for agriculture, but this time agro-industrialization, industrializing agriculture. The T is for tourism. We all say Uganda is very beautiful, gifted by nature, so on and so forth. But what are we doing to ensure that Uganda remains competitive in the tourism and travel industry? We are earning some $1.5 billion now in tourism. Good money. But this is almost coming naturally because we have a beautiful place. Someone, when he looks at the world map,
we haven't been intentional in investing in this area. We haven't
been so intentional. So we are stepping up our investment, and we said if we did differently the tourism, for example, look at the tourism destinations themselves. When a tourist has come to Uganda and he goes to our park, will he go back and
spread the word?
Tell someone, go to this park? Has he or she experienced some comfort? Because tourists are rich people, by all standards. They are rich people. Poor people don't visit to go and see how birds fly, how snakes crawl around. Actually, when we see them, we pick a stone to hit them. We see food. So it's rich people who visit. But now, when they go there, the facilities in the tourism sites, the infrastructure, the security, the IT. Because you are there, you want to see something beautiful, and right away you send it to your family, or even you live. They call it what? These younger people, when you are
live streaming,
you live stream it to your family. Look at this, and to do that you need internet. So we are now saying let's start with the minimum. sanitation facilities, let them be at 5-star level, minimum 5-star level in every tourism destination. This is what UA is doing with the entire fraternity in tourism. Now, then, along the way, as we go there, these roads we are building, they are just a tarmac. You go and you reach. The only place you can stop is a filling station where there is petrol, maybe you are refueling. And the toilets are dirty. There's nothing, nowhere to sit for a few minutes to refresh. And so we are saying now we are going to build highway, those sanitation facilities and the stopovers where people can have some comfort and rest and then embark on the journey and go. They plan the journey that I'm going to Murchison Falls. I will stop at this place, and then I will be in Murchison, and it is comfortable. Then marketing Uganda. This Uganda has been portrayed out there as one of the worst places by our bad politics. Now, we need to brand and rebrand and market the country. Countries market themselves. You know, sometimes when you see them on CNN and so on, you may think, I'm going here, this is the best. That is what they call, for example, a Table Mountain in Cape Town. When you see it, you think it is...
It's perfect,
When you reach there, you see a rock. You are just on top of a rock. There is nothing to... And you wonder. And there are hundreds of thousands of people visiting it every week. So we need to market the Rwenzoris, our beautiful Uganda, because Uganda is one of the most beautiful countries, and we are working on that, among other investments. Then the aim is for minerals now, our mineral-based industrialization, where we are now have also a new mineral called oil and gas. But we have the gold, we have the copper, we have the phosphates, we have the tin, we have the zinc. Uganda has every single mineral. The only mineral we don't have in Uganda yet, which we haven't discovered, is diamonds, perhaps. But we have all the precious minerals, including now the much sought after lithium and the uranium. We have them in Uganda. Now, we are saying, how do we get partners across the world? Because now minerals are very, very highly sought after. Countries which used to have minerals have exhausted them. They have mined them and built industry. Others have sold them to the Europeans and so on. We are lucky in Uganda. The president said no more export of minerals. If you want minerals from Uganda, come to Uganda. And I'm telling you, investors are coming in droves. Now, we want to start with the iron ore, and we build a steel industry in Uganda. Our mineral here of iron ore, which is the most important mineral, by the way, in the human race, iron ore. Everything you are seeing here, Judith, was either made out of steel or made using steel. That microphone you are having in front of you was molded using steel. This cup I'm drinking in, steel is used to mold it. This table was made using steel. And so steel is a very few countries in the world have transformed without building a steel industry. Now we want to also do the same, and we are in advanced stages of doing that. The oil and the gas, that one, the story, we have talked about it again and again and again. My presenter today will now...
We'll talk more
about the oil and the oil politics. But we are going to get the oil out of the ground soon. Then STI. The S is science, technology, and innovation, including digital transformation, but also the creative industry. This is a new economy now. Oh, what I was forgetting, on tourism, our potential is at $50 billion when our modelers look at it. It can generate 50 billion per annum. That tourism, if we did the right things, and I'm saying if we are going to do the right things. The M, the minerals, we are talking of $25 billion per annum, the potential we have. Now, STI is the key multiplier industry. It's a new knowledge economy. It is having to do with the now accelerating the other three. You need digital transformation, you need innovations in certain areas. But as I told you last time, Judith, technology is know-how. Know-how is with the people's minds. We need to facilitate these minds, either to come here and those of ours to be more productive, and we innovate. That's why we are supporting scientists or Ugandans who come up and say, I can do this, and this is proof. In a government now, our target is to get 2% of our GDP invested in R&D, research and development. And I want to assure you, we are going to get there. It is going to be a marathon. We have already made tremendous inroads. Then the creatives, the younger people who are creative, haven't been supported as much as we should. Of course, we have supported them before, but we want to organize them better. They asked for 3 things, and these are simple things. They said, give us a copyright law, protect our creative arts. When I create something, when I innovate, protect me from pirate. Then 2, give us a home. Uganda doesn't have a Hollywood, a Nollywood, and so on. Give us a home. Purchase for us or get us some investment. Those governments made those investments there, and we are doing that. Number 3, give us some money as a seed capital to invest in our own talents as well. And we have started doing that. So those are the 4 areas. But then we have enablers. I don't want to waste a lot of time. But the enablers are the infrastructure now, which is going to help us, starting with peace and security, getting to education itself and health, talking of infrastructure, the roads, the electricity, the airports, and so on, which we are revamping, and talk of the wealth funds themselves, which are going to be, because these areas I've mentioned, people have ideas, but they don't have money, some of them. When they go to the commercial banks, the cost is so high. So as government, we are trying to see how do we come in to give some seed support. Those are the wealth funds. We put in UDB, we put in UDC, we have put now in PDM, in Emioga, and so on. And then talk about the areas of industrial parks. We're building industrial parks and the infrastructure and so on and so forth. So that's why we are dreaming of the big, beautiful economy where Judith and I, before we die, we can be in a rich Uganda. We also, we deserve to be there. And I want to tell you, Judith, we are going to be there.
I hope so. I want to buy into this optimism. Dickens, let me come to you from, of course, the CSO perspective, and you do, of course, a lot of issues, a lot of work around ensuring there's accountability on the part of government. When you look at this ambition, $500 billion by 2030 or 2040, first of all, what are your initial reactions when it comes to this ambition? And also, do you think this is feasible, looking at all these priority areas that Mr. Gobi has just outlined? Or do you think this is just way too ambitious, especially when you look at our current realities, issues of governance, resource allocation, and the pace of development in Uganda?
Yeah, thank you very much. The PSST, I had thought actually I would also be talking about what needs to be done for us actually to reach that ambition. But I think he has talked about it. He has not talked about the obstacles that we are facing. Because if you look at Uganda today, all the conditions are favorable for us actually to achieve what he's talking about. I believe many people out there, even outside Uganda, when you are talking to them, they love this country, they love food, they love everything. But I think the politics here is about the governance. This is the reason I have a friend of mine who works in the Ministry of Works.
He works in the Ministry of Works. He's working.
Yes, he's working in the Ministry of Works. And when they were constructing the Entebbe Express, the person I was asking, why can't the government ensure that maybe there is like along that road there is a railway line that even goes to the northern bypass that can connect to the airport? So that if you are saying you want tourism, the transport system is managed in a manner that you don't need everyone to have a vehicle
to go to the airport.
To go to the airport or leave the airport. So if you had combined it with that road, I think it would make it very easy. So, and he said that actually the technical people, they actually advise government and the political leaders that these things should be done. And actually the political leaders, they say, oh, this is not a priority today. So, in other words, whether you are talking about tourism, some people are saying, oh, assuming you were saving this golf course, which people fought, and the government decided to say, let's construct their cement. If you go to Nairobi here, their tourism is actually done within Nairobi, because they have very many things out there. In Kampala, we have removed all of them. So I don't know whether we say, oh, by 2040, we are going to have 500 billion. But you must begin now. I think even the president has been talking about irrigation for the last how many years? Irrigation doesn't need a route of technology. To ensure that actually in every region at least there are modern stores. Because what has been a problem in agriculture, for example, has been that today people produce a lot and it has no market. The prices are almost zero. So next season people don't go to the gardens. So if the government had good stores that people can actually store things and ensure they wait for the good markets, maybe you would actually improve agriculture. So I don't know whether actually when they say we are going to modernize agriculture, when they are still failing to do simple things, ensure there is irrigation in every region, that people don't need to wait for rain. When there is this, like a dry season of 2 months, it is going to destroy. So for me, in my opinion, the ambition, you can actually achieve the target of 40 billion, or rather 500 billion by 2040. But if we remain the way we are moving, that every increment, if the revenues increase from, say, 20 billion US dollars, the GDP increase from 20 billion US dollars to 40, you have hundreds of MPs, you have hundreds of districts, hundreds of RDCs. I don't know how you are going to actually say you are going to achieve, because if you create a lot of consumption, it does not actually create the enablers. It actually destroys things that you are talking about. Because when the government was buying road equipment for districts, most of us, we had thought that within our districts, we are going to be having feeder roads that really you can go and move. As we speak today, we go to like I come from Mutungam. You leave your car like almost 10 kilometers away because the road is gone. And when you like the friends in the districts, they say, oh, this road was taken by UNR. Now UNR is not there. But can you imagine that a district is 10 kilometers, is like 12 kilometers, and is saying this road is for UNR? How would you expect farmers to produce and transport their produce to the market? Because the moment the roads are bad, it means the middleman who has capacity to have a strong vehicle to reach where the farmer is going to rip off that farmer. Yeah, so there are some small things, but you give road equipment to districts, you can't give them maintenance money, you can't give them fuel, you can't give them, and the equipment actually gets rots there. So for us, I think the PSSD, you are the people who give money. What we need, if we are going to talk about the $500 billion economy, and for that economy to be relevant to people need to see. If you talk about like that, we have the tax collection is still very low at 14%. We people in Kampala, the government says you collect almost 60-70% of the revenues. But look at the way we live here. I don't think that if you go to the rest of Africa, you can find the level of pollution that we are living in here in Kampala. What would be attracting me and encouraging me as a taxpayer to actually improve my businesses and ensure that I can actually pay the taxes? There is no incentive for me to continue paying because we are paying, but we don't get the services. Lastly, I think for the economy to move, and I think the way the government says they want to invest in people, invest in research, I kept on like the work we do on electricity. When they liberalized, I thought that government would invest like in Uganda electricity generation company, that after maybe 10, 20 years, you'd have domestic companies that can actually build the dams or run dams. That like the amount of money government was investing in UNRWA, we had thought that actually they would ensure there are domestic companies, road construction companies, that would be taking contracts of $100 million and what the government did was actually the people who were struggling to borrow money from these traditional banks and buying road equipment, they go and build the road, they don't pay them. Most of those small companies that were Ugandan, which were supposed to be empowered to grow, actually collapsed. As we speak, all the money we borrow, all the money that from the budget that goes into the roads and everything, they are all spent on foreign companies. So even if you have a $500 billion economy, if you don't have some domestic people who can partake in those businesses, the people will take all the money. In other words, you'll find that Ugandans, even when the economy is growing, the economic growth that they are talking about, Ugandans are not benefiting from that growth. And it will not matter if Ugandans are not benefiting.
So the example you give from your place in Tungamo, that stretch of tarmac that hasn't been worked on. So how are the PDM beneficiaries in that area actually able to send their produce now to the markets? Because I think if we are talking about pushing, I don't know if it should even be you answering that, but your experiences when you interact with the community, what do they tell you?
No, the PDM actually, I have many people who have received the money. They will tell you, oh, my son, daughters didn't have school fees. They paid. Then the neighbor was selling a piece of small land. They bought. I doubt that at least the people like 10 to 20 I have talked to, that they will tell you, now I am earning so much. And I think that's what we need to be looking at, the politics. Because if you cannot help people to get like irrigation, and you throw some cash at them. If you cannot help people to get like stores in those regions that when they harvest and maybe there's no market, they can keep their maize, keep their nuts for the next 2-3 months for you, and you throw some cash at them. The cash is good, but at least there must be a good strategy. It is like a hungry man to say, you hungry man, you keep this food for some 2 days and don't eat it. No, these poor people will eat the money, and I doubt whether that money is going to transform them. But if the government was consolidating that money and say, okay, we are going to ensure there is a system for irrigation for these farmers, we are going to ensure that there is a system for modern stores, we are going to make sure they have like electricity, they can pump something or store things. For me, I think it is possible. Just about 2 years ago, the national water came to our area. I personally paid like 2 million to dig like pipes to reach our place. I did it since 2 years. Now it is 2 years. No single drop of water has ever come to our place. Even the government cheating its own people. And when they are talking about how many villages have been connected to the national water, they actually include our village. And yet there is no water. So some of these statistics are not helping anyone.
Thank you, Mr. Kamugisha. Mr. Gobe, let me come to you. Mr. Kamugisha talks about, of course, challenges, enablers, the infrastructure, the state of the infrastructure. He's just giving one example of the roads in Tungamo, but I'm sure elsewhere people would have similar challenges. Of course, you're looking at roads, the standard gauge railway, which is supposed to be worked on, issues of electricity, which of course are all enablers. But I would also like to hear you talk about de-risking this public and private investments in these areas. You know, what is government doing to de-risk?
Thank you. You know, sometimes when I listen to our conversations in Uganda, based on naked evidence, and we leave the data, the static, because we have big data now on everything. The good thing with the modern society is that almost on everything there is data. The road infrastructure in Uganda, we used to have about 3,000 kilometers of national road paved. It has now been doubled. When you look at the state of, because we are all Ugandans, we are not visitors, unless if anyone really has just come in. We know where we have come from. We know where we are. We used to travel from here to Ntungamo, where my friend is coming from here to Fort Portal, from here to Gulu, and everybody knows the amount of time we used to use and the kind of infrastructure we were moving on the trunker roads. But even when you go to the countryside, of course, Uganda is a developing country. It's not a rich country. We are developing, meaning that things are just improving cumulatively and gradually. It's not going to be a sprint. Development is a marathon. It takes time to build infrastructure everywhere and so on. But eventually we shall get there, and that's why we are talking of this tenfold growth. So we need to also put into context where have we come from? Are we making progress or not? You as a Ugandan, even where you are, we know where we are in terms of the infrastructure, the roads, the electricity, the schools, the water itself, and so on. And where we are now, how many people are competing with the ecosystem? Like they all used the two. I remember when I was growing up in Butambala, and my mother sent us to a well called Kawezike. The well is called Kawezike. Down there in the bush, you go and you first chase away frog to draw your water. You know. Now, when I go to Butambala there, at my mother's place, every household has access to a safe source of water.
You are very lucky.
You know? And, of course, it's not luck. It's those cumulative efforts which I'm saying, which have built that capacity over time. And it's not a one-off, it is across the country, because the statistics now shows you that the recent census we've had and the household survey, you can compare how many, the proportion of the population which used to have access to safe drinking water vis-a-vis today. It is really entire world apart. So we need to appreciate these kind of things which happen. Therefore, to turn to your question on where the areas of de-risking, government, we are very deliberate. We know that in order to develop an industry, a green field, you need to either support the private sector by removing the hurdles or reducing the risks, or you need to partner with them. And that's what we are doing through Uganda Development Bank. We have invested now, people out there, the Ugandans have taken about 1.5 trillion shillings as capital, the capital in the development bank. Of course, it creates more money. So you will find that you are upwards of 1.8 trillion shillings. We have now acquired another trillion shillings as capital for the bank for this coming period, so that it can get out there, because this is now capital which is patient, relatively patient, and relatively cheaper. You pay 12% per annum as interest, and you can stay with the money up to 10 years. It's not anywhere. You can't find it in the commercial banks. Mm-hmm. We have also Uganda Development Corporation, government investment arm, which is partnering with the manufacturers. Just here in Industrial Park, they have two partners. One is now substituting all these gloves, the gloves used in our health facilities, produced here in Namanfe, and the UDC is working with them. UDC is working with those who are adding value to our agricultural produce. Remember, I talked of agro-industrialization, so that we can be able to have people, including Budadiri Coffee, these coffee growers now in eastern Uganda, Nandala Mafabi and his group. They are wonderful workers there, Ugandans working in the gardens to grow coffee, but now adding value to export it when it is value-added coffee. UDC is working with them. And we don't want the risking efforts to replace private sector, because that's where you fail. For us, we are private sector led, where the private sector can do a better job. That's why you don't find us in a transport, that government is coming in to de-risk transport and ensuring that these buses and matatus are now owned by government, or government is providing loans. There you are going to distort the market, like the way we used to do in the past, that there is a UTC. If you go back and Judith, I know you are not there, and ask your parents what used to happen with the UTC. If it left you in that village of yours, you wait until the following day, if you are lucky, that it will return the inefficiencies of government. But now, with the private enterprise in Uganda, that transport now just needs one thing: regulation, proper regulation, and then they invest more, because of the chaos now in it. Some of the good investors can pull out. Like, we need a bus system here in Kampala, a good public bus system, where once you have the good buses, clean, air conditioned, and so on, Judith will not struggle driving a small car across the city. So those are some of the things we are also looking at. How do we regulate better? Mm-hmm. How do we co-invest where we can, complement the private sector, but don't outcompete the private sector in those 4 areas I talked about, the ATMs.
Thank you, Mr. Gobi. We're going to take a break and handle it better, and also the risks and opportunities, as well as how to manage revenues transparently to ensure that there's equitable growth. We'll have this after. Welcome back from the break. It is 6 minutes past 10 o'clock. Glad you're still with us here on Views, People and News on 933 KFM. We're talking about Uganda's $500 billion dream. We're asking if it is a catalyst or an illusion on the road to economic destiny. My name is Judith Atim. I'm your host. And if you've just joined us, we are having a conversation with the PSST, Mr. Ramadan Gobi, and also Mr. Dickens Kamagusha, who is the Executive Director of the Africa Institute for Energy Governance. Mr. Kamagusha, it is now time. I'll give you the microphone now. Energy governance, of course, your thoughts on this. How, as a country, do you think the government is actually handling our energy sector and the mineral-based development, which is, of course, one of the ATMs, one of those areas that should usher us into this growth that we're talking about? And also, what are the risks and opportunities that you foresee in this sector?
Yeah, thank you very much. I think to begin with, like, electricity sector, I must appreciate that the government has tried to move forward. And if you look at the amount of power now we are generating as a country, the ratio of the power generated to the number of citizens is still low, but at least we've moved the distance. You look at the number of dams, the big dams have increased, the small dams almost in every part of the country. There are many now. You look at even the transmission lines, distribution lines, they have moved. But right from, I think, 2012 when the Jagari Dam was commissioned. Actually, even before that, like 2005 when they were beginning the construction of Jagari Dam. That's the time when I had finished school and had joined the civil society and were engaging government, saying, if you don't deal with the question of corruption, it will actually fail these projects that would have been the best for the country. That is why, like, right now, the Jagari Commission in 2012, up to now, it cannot pay taxes to the government of Uganda. And yet for us, we are paying back the loan. So is that a project or not a project? Because the moment such a company is not paying taxes, it means the citizens are not benefiting, and the citizens will not be empowered to be able even to consume the electricity. You have this, like the Karuma Dam and the Simba Dam, which were constructed, and both dams were supposed to be commissioned in 2019. And at least Simba was commissioned, but with visible and open defects as a dam. And you have government officials who commissioned it, and we actually again petitioned the Minister of Energy. You cannot allow this investor, you cannot commission this dam when it has defects. And they commissioned. So you start asking, if you commission a dam with defects, are you saying it is going to produce electricity that can be relevant to people? For the Karuma, a dam of almost over $2 billion, you were supposed to commission it in 2019, you end up commissioning it in 2025. Those are how many years delay. How much has that delay cost to the country and to the taxpayers? So now we have, yes, that electricity which is a road, but as we speak right now, the access to the grid by Ugandans is still between 19 and 22. And there's no way a country that cannot have access to electricity can develop. That the people are going to improve their incomes, improve their lives, and be able to pay good taxes to the country. And if they cannot, the country cannot get good taxes, it means it will also struggle. Because normally the countries generate money from taxes paid by the citizens. You have the mineral sector, the same thing. Because right now, if you look at the mineral, but also before the mineral, you look at the oil sector. In 2008, when the government wanted to build a mineral oil refinery, the president had said he would never and can never allow exportation of crude. Mm-hmm. And that was his point, and he had very serious reasons. For us, we were actually telling him that, this country has no capacity actually even to process crude, even has no capacity even to export. You can't refine, you can't export crude in the current circumstances, especially because of corruption. And by 2012, the president's position of he cannot export crude had changed. Today, this Ministry of Finance, every year they are borrowing hundreds of billions, investing it in the ECOP and the Tereng and the Kingfisher. If you go to Bunyoro, they have the best roads today. And the other time I was hearing people from Bunyoro celebrating. But you see, if you construct good roads in an area and you don't create mechanisms for them to utilize those roads to benefit, it is a cost on everyone. If I always go to almost every month, I happen to be in Bunyoro, Burisa, Hoima. When you are in the Burisa roads, they are the best roads in the country, but you are there struggling with cows, goats, because they are the ones full on the roads, because there are no vehicles. So at the end of the day, you find yes, you are saying you are investing in oil, but the oil companies are saying you must build the roads, you must build the airport, you must. And right now, maybe the PSSD has not talked about the debt. From 2012 to date, it's when the debt has increased. And you see, they are increasing because you have to borrow for the airport in Hoima, you have to borrow for the roads, you have to put the equity in the ECOP, and you even have no guarantee when the you are going to produce oil. So it remains a problem. So the same thing with the mineral sector, because right now the entire world actually survives on minerals, because they can generate anything, they can process anything. Do we have the system? Because like a system in terms of leadership to make sure that we can maximize the benefits of those minerals? It is still a big challenge. And for me, everything I've been looking at it from the politics. If you are going to create districts that you cannot empower, it is going to become a problem. If you are going to have a huge parliament, which you even have nowhere they can sit, it is going to be a problem. If you're going to construct, yes, the main roads, but you have a city that is polluted, that is not orderly, where people are supposed to sit, reason, and plan, and it is not happening. So all these extractives, the mineral sector, because I saw in the budget they have allocated around 800 billion for the extractives. But ask, what is it that they are investing in? Why is it that they have been, for the oil, they have been giving deadlines, and the deadlines are never met? Why is it that many banks that are powerful that should be investing are actually withdrawing from funding this company, this sector? And today, if you ask these technical people that actually, what are the clear benefits or the returns that we expect from like the ECOP, they are still planning to build a refinery. And my question has been, for a poor country with very small reserves of oil, they tell us about 6 billion and they can recover maybe 1 billion, and you are saying you want to invest 5 billion in the ECOP to export crude, invest another 5 billion to build a refinery. There is that is not planning. Be humble and accept that, I'm going maybe to invest in one and leave the other, because that's how you are going to save. But in a system where you find everyone is crying of corruption, if you are going to negotiate a contract of 5 billion for the ECOP, negotiate a contract of 5 billion for the refinery, it is going to be a challenge. And that's why, for me, I don't think the issue should be that in 2040 we are going to have a $500 billion economy. It should be that even the money that we have today, because if we say in 1986 maybe our economy was 3 billion, today it is 60 billion US dollars. There are many things that have happened. But if you go to our health centers, public health centers today, my aunt was in Mbarara Hospital just on Monday, and I'm telling you, he's in a coma, but has nowhere to sleep. So in the night at around 3 a.m. when the cleaners come to clean, they have to lift that lady to outside until they finish cleaning for like an hour. Then you bring her back. And it is not only the other time the judge of the Court of Appeal was saying in Morocco they don't have even small things. If you go to many of the schools outside Kampala, the kids are studying under trees. So in other words, what matters most is actually to use what we have today to transform the lives of people. And these people are the ones going to contribute to make sure that they pay taxes, we pay everything. But assuming you are investing, the economic growth is not actually reaching the people. Where are you going to generate money? You can't depend on borrowing every other day. Yes, you borrow, but the borrowing can also collapse you. Yeah.
Thank you.
Those are some of the areas that, for me, I believe we must make sure, and the government people, the PSSD, ensure that you invest in people. We haven't invested in people. People are suffering. The coffee prices can increase, but actually people in the villages don't have food. Yeah.
Thank you. And that's actually an interesting thing, which is also what I wanted to move into, the people factor, of course. And I know the budget and also vision, the NDP is very heavy on human capital development. But of course, like Mr. Kamugisha says, how is the government investing? What investments are being made to actually ensure that, our citizens, our human capital, our labor force is actually ready to meet the demands that come with this ambitious growth?
Maybe PSS, before you talk, I want to ask, why are you not paying people who supply services to government?
Let me come in, please. Civil society, I can now see why they lost funders. they think that the only way to make a point is always to look at the other glass half empty. But that's not how life is. I will start with some of the things he's talking about. Bujagali not paying tax. Judith, here you asked me on how government is de-risking private sector. Bujagali was built by a private investor, Mr. Aga Khan, and his partners. They built Bujagali at a time when Uganda did not have electricity. We could hardly finish this program without electricity going. They say electricity has gone. I see people fidgeting here and to run around and they switch on a generator and so on. We did not have electricity. And in a way of attracting private capital into the power industry, Bujagali, in particular Mr. Aga Khan, government gave them a tax waiver on the corporate tax, income tax. The reason this was done was to ensure that the tariff which is paid by the final consumer, Mr. Dixon, that tariff is affordable. If we were to remove the waiver, the power supplied by Bujagali would contribute to increase in our tariff of the country by 1.5 cents of US dollars. So that's why we said, continue having this waiver until such a time when we no longer need your electricity, or maybe because eventually they will hand over this dam after a number of years. So it was a good way of de-risking them, and that's how governments work across the world. But somebody comes to paint a picture that you see some people are not paying tax and they're actually saving you from not paying more money on the tariff so that you can be able to be productive. Secondly, he also thinks that you shouldn't have constructed roads in the oil area because they are empty, there is no business on it, it is competing with the cows, and this type of talk is not good because without those roads, we wouldn't have had the oil or tourism in that area. And trust me, Mr. Dixon today would be telling me that how did we expect to get oil without infrastructure in the area? If, for example, those trucks which are doing the drilling did not have the infrastructure had to come first. Of course, the oil activities have not yet started. The peak activities will come and those roads will be a beehive of activities. But already they are supporting our tourism. Actually, for me, I call them more of tourism roads than oil roads, as some people are saying. That's why you are getting more money from tourism today, perhaps. The companies is also talking of these oil companies which were withdrawing and so on. They were withdrawing because of misinformation, of course, from people like the civil society, misinforming the world about the oil. And but now they are back. The financials are back because we have been able to debunk, to explain to the world what this oil is all about and how responsibly we're exploiting it. The entire world, the world over, they have exploited their resources. But it's amazing that we can be in a country where some people think that we shouldn't. The only thing we should do is to ensure that we are responsible environmentally so that we don't destroy the... And those are the bare minimum. No financial institution can ever give you money anymore in the current regime of ESG if you are not satisfied. Forget about oil. Even this road you see there, that road you see, nobody could give us money to construct that road if we are not compensating even someone who was selling on the roadside there. It's not his plot, but once you are going to antagonize their livelihood, you must compensate them. And we are paying a lot of money in government to satisfy those ESG, environmental and governance kind of requirements, social requirements, which we are tending to. Therefore, I would want us to avoid thinking that debates are about showing what doesn't work. Debates is about context and how we are addressing different challenges. The world over, they have challenges, but they are addressing them. Now, back to your issue. We are working on the areas of the tenfold growth, especially as far as providing what I've called enablers. Because you see, Judith, these enablers, we are just skirting them. There is no way you are going to do whatever we are talking about if certain fundamentals are not in place. We need to see that the infrastructure is in place. And we are doing that infrastructure, right from the main infrastructure to the small ones. But as I have told you, you can't have money to do everything at the same time.
It's a process.
We are doing them, bit by bit, and in areas where we are calculating higher return on investment. We are not just going to take electricity everywhere for people to catch grasshoppers, to light up their small huts. No, we start with the growth areas. Where is this electricity going to create more growth, so that we can be able to generate an economy that can transmit now electricity to other areas. Even those developed world, you see, that's why they concentrate populations in certain areas. They have conurbations. If you are not living in that area, you will find it difficult to get utilities. But in Uganda, we think because some Dixon has a garden somewhere in the hills of Ntungamo, government should take a road there in the hill. No, that's not how things work. We put roads in certain areas for growth purposes. We extend electricity to certain areas to generate a multiplier. And then later, when we make the money, now we start to say, now we need to also open up that area. For example, now we own PDM. Some years back, PDM was not a priority. We were now first dealing with the fundamentals of the private sector. But now we are saying you can't just grow people in Kampala, make them richer, build all these houses on the hills of Kampala. These Dixons who are crying, they are expanding households here. When you see Kampala is expanding, I have the head of IMF Africa Department, a man called Abebe Selassie. He's from Ethiopia. He's the one who heads the African Department in the IMF. Wherever he sees me, say, PS, you can never explain to me why in Uganda you are not collecting revenue. Because he was here in the early 2000s as the IMF representative in Uganda. He knows what was Uganda then. He says, whenever I fly to your country now, and I'm on the plane up there, and I see what is going on in Greater Kampala, the kind of construction you people you've done and the kind of transformation I see in your country, why are your people not paying revenue? Why are they not giving you money to build this infrastructure?
And what's your response?
I tell him that, like everywhere in the world, Ugandans don't want to pay tax. I'm working on it to develop systems and make them pay. And they're going to pay. But the point I wanted to make is, the economy was just here in Greater Kampala. And we were now supporting how do we get industries, how do we get these other the commercial farmers to work. But now we are saying, how do we get those Ugandans who are just working for their stomach only to also join the money economy and contribute to the growth and the revenue of the country? That's why PDM is there. And this PDM is now beginning. I heard at the beginning, Dixon was saying that the people were taking people to school, paying school fees out of PDM money. That's not the LCM, the lowest common multiple. The lowest common multiple is people have invested this money in agriculture. We have the data, 45% in crop, both cash and food crops, 36% in livestock, poultry as well, about 16%. Other, the category called the other, those who have just drunk the money, who have bought a blanket, a bicycle, or taken their children to school, only 6%. So 94% of the PDM money has gone to productive activity. And that's good. Therefore, I would want us to have this goal. By the way, it's not a dream. UKFM people don't call $500 billion economy dream. It's a goal. Dreams are usually dreams. They are not real. You wake up and you realize, oh, I'm not as rich as I thought I was in the dream. No, this is a goal, and I would want to mobilize all of you Ugandans. I want this radio also to become tenfold.
We receive.
Yes, all of us to become rich, and we are working on those deliberations.
Thank you, Mr. Gobi. I want to move to Dickens for just 2 minutes. You've heard what the PSST says. I know we have a lot of issues, and I don't think we're going to be able to exhaust them. But I would like you to quickly also respond. I don't know if you're satisfied with the response that he's given you, if you have a rebuttal to his submission.
For me, honestly, I know what he's saying. Sometimes the technical people and the politicians are now almost the same. Because if you look at what the government used to talk about the colonialists, you would say, oh, they built an airport. It was not meant actually for Africans. If by coincidence Africans benefited, yes. They built like a railway line, it goes to Chirembe mines. Was it meant for the Africans? So the same thing, I know, I talked about the roads in Unyoro, and I'm not saying they are not supposed to be there. But what is it that is being done to make sure that if it is meant to facilitate the oil, but it is also supposed to facilitate the citizens there to make sure they maximize the benefits of the roads? There is nothing that is being done there. If, for example, we said we constructed these dams to make sure that, like electricity dams, to make sure that we can generate more power and we can use power to industrialize. Just you look at Bujagari, we were able to attract an investor to bring his own money. The Aga Khan bring his own money. After that dam, because we didn't handle it well, now when it came to Isimba and Karuma, it actually now changed. That actually now you have a private company and the government of Uganda is the one that borrows money to give it to a private company. And we are facing real challenges. How do you give government borrows money, gives it to a private company? How do you ensure that that company is going to give you a quality dam? And that's why both dams, it is a struggle. And at least I have data, it is a struggle. So why is it that in Bujagari, you attract investors to bring their own money? Now in Karuma and Isimba, the government of Uganda is the one borrowing the money. For me, I would...
But you are not happy with me giving them a tax waiver? The
no, I mean, like, a tax waiver is good.
Damned if I did,
if a tax waiver... Yes, if a tax waiver was good, I would imagine the investors would be attracted to bring their own money, but they didn't.
We have to take a break, and then also we shall be opening our phone lines to our listeners to also call in and be part of the conversation. I'll read out the numbers before we go for the break: 03939339333, 03932629333, 0393 262-934, 0393-266-933, 0701-933-934, and lastly 0751-933-900. We'll be back after the break and we'll open the phone lines. Give us a call.
No, okay. He has for he leaves.
Welcome back. Welcome back from the break. Hello, good morning.
Morning.
May I know who I'm talking to?
Sam Kaizi.
Sorry?
My name is Sam Kaizi.
Yes, Sam. Kindly proceed with your comment or question.
Yeah, thank you very much, the discussant. I respect my former teacher, Ramadan. He likes teaching. And I'm wondering, before I forget, is economics teachers, are they paid as scientists or artists? Now, before I forget the most important point, he talked to a friend of his who was in the air and saw how Kampala was expanding. Ramadan could not give an answer. An economist as he is, let me help him. Those are the houses and projects of the corrupt. Those are the people who don't even pay taxes. Those are the people who import the tiles for their building and the cement without even paying taxes. That's why he cannot collect those taxes. Please give me the email of your friend. I'll tell him. Now, Ramadan, fly in the air, move towards northern Uganda. I was lucky some 7 years back in a small plane. You see how people, they underpopulated. The rivers, the bush, underpopulation. That's why now the Malaro are moving towards buying their acre for 700,000 shillings. I saw a clip of Honorable Dongo talking about that. Show you the intensity of poverty in northern Uganda. I want to assure you, Ramadan, you come from Butambala. There is a saying in Uganda, Omana akulema mbuto, omuzala mbukadde. You are seeing a lot of wishes saying we have 500 billion.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much, Sam, for your contribution. Hello? 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 Juma, your connection is not very clear.
Okay, corruption. I'm talking about corruption must stop in Uganda. And the government should borrow for a purpose. Review must be done for the previous borrowing. What has impact it brought? Bye-bye.
Okay, government should borrow for a purpose. Thank you, Juma. Hello? Okay, I think let's just carry on with the discussion. If another caller comes in, we'll... All right. Yeah, so Sam is asking, he's your student, and he says he's concerned. He wasn't actually asking a question, but he wanted to just let you know, probably give you clarity. I don't know if I should call it that. That the reason you cannot collect taxes is because the impression that people get that the country is growing or that Kampala is doing well is not because people actually get money the right way, but the projects that you see are most likely a result of ill-gotten wealth.
I don't know where he gets his facts, because I also know a lot of Ugandans who are business people who have really progressed. So many families. In my own family, I have them. I don't know whether in Kaizi's family, all of the people he has there are working in the government and they are corrupt. Because the middle class also in Uganda has grown. These numbers are there. I would invite him to visit our website on that one of the Uganda Bureau of Statistics, and he gets to know actually Uganda in terms of the facts, not what his opinion is, where he is. On the borrowing for purpose, I think that's what he was saying.
Mm-hmm. Yes, that's true.
Yeah, we are borrowing for one purpose, development projects. In Uganda, we don't borrow money for any other thing other than development. In the past 10 years, for example, the debt we have acquired has gone in infrastructure, what we call integrated infrastructure, railway, roads, and the airports, and then water transport, about 29%. Then number two, we have also borrowed for energy. Those dams Dick was talking about, we borrowed the money, we built them. Now we are going to return the money.
Okay. Sorry, PSSC, there are just two comments coming in my inbox. One from Ambrose. It says, my question goes to the PSST. How prepared are they, and what measures have been put in place to ensure that the economy remains stable during and after the election period? That's from Ambrose. And then Ivan Masawi says, my question to the PSST, Recently, he highlighted 5 things to be done on the mission of the $500 billion economy, which included clean up, team up, skill up, green up, link up. But when you look at their investment plan or activities to spur economic growth, they are more academic than practical. I want him to expound more on their goal, which I see as a dream, since what they're implementing does not correlate with their dream, especially that they are not widening the tax base at the same level as the appetite for growth. I don't know if that question is clear.
So whoever is asking that, he wants to tell me that investing 4.1 trillion shillings in agriculture, in tourism and minerals is academic, and he has some practical ways. I don't know what the practical ways he wanted me to use. Where should we put the money? In which craft? What? We are putting 11.4 trillion shillings in education and health. I don't know whether that's practical. We are putting 3 trillion in wealth creation. I don't know whether that's academic. We are putting 6.9 trillion.
I'm told we have another caller. Hello?
Roads.
Hello?
Hello?
Yes, good morning.
Good morning, Judith.
May I know who I'm talking to, please?
This is Moses Yaranga.
Yes, Moses. Good to have you.
I wanted to listen to you too. I've been listening in.
Yes.
I wanted to reply to Dixon.
Dickens Kamugisha.
Kamugisha. He was saying that about his patient, thought about that, who was admitted, and there was not enough, maybe the room in the health center. But you see, to measure the success in the health sector, investing in the people, as you mentioned it, yes, some of these health units at the advanced levels have managerial issues which need to be dealt with. But at the bigger picture level, the investment in the human capital in the health side, as you can see it in immunization. Today, a child is not immunized because not because the government has failed to immunize that child. It's because maybe the parents have not taken that child for immunization. So and immunization has been increased. It used to be only 6 killer diseases. Now it's about 14, including now they introduced malaria recently, including the cervical cancer and so forth. So immunization is so successful around the country. And now, as a result, we are seeing reduction in infant mortality, the under 5, the under 1 year. You are seeing reduction in maternal mortality. These are great successes. Look at the water sector. Because also in giving the access to clean water has improved. That's also an investment in the people. People are getting cleaner water, which is not without. So their health is also improving. Those are some of the comments I wanted to make.
Thank you, Moses. Yes. Hello. Okay, Mr. Gobi, kindly proceed. Carry on.
I was trying to get to the caller that we are putting the money where we feel it's going to have a good return, or where it's going to contribute to the well-being of Ugandans.
The other one was about ensuring that the economy is stable during and after the election period.
Absolutely. That's in our DNA, to keep macroeconomy stable. Uganda is known for that. Because we avoid certain issues. You remember in the last period when everybody after COVID was telling us, including my good friend Judith, why don't you do something about these prices? Why don't you do something about this and that? I said, trust me, these things we are in charge.
Another caller. Hello. Hello. Good morning. Yes, please.
Good morning, Judith.
Good morning. May I know who I'm talking to?
I'm talking to Ekode.
Yes, Ekode, Michael.
Thanks for that, sir.
You're welcome. Please proceed.
Yes, and I wanted to appreciate our guests today. They have really elaborated the topic very well. And Mr. Moses Yarhanga has also put it right. When I hear him listen to the show, it means, yeah, we're on the point. Now, I just have two concerns on the budget. Dr. Ramadan telling us how they have put almost 4 trillion in health and education. But this, thank you, but this is still little money to consider health, education, agriculture as priority areas in our country. Yes, you're saying UPDF is taking over 9 trillion. We need to adjust on this. 2, about the PDM, we had the Myoga, there's NADS, and PDM. Yes, PDM, I'm seeing some results also. I can confess that. But we still need to do public sensitization. As Mr. Dixon was saying that people are using this money to pay school fees. We tell you there's a very big problem. Why should someone get the PDM money and pay school fees? It seems things are not doing well. Life is not okay. So we need to keep on improving this life status of Ugandans.
Thank you. And I think we are stopping calls now. One more caller. Okay, hello.
How are you, madam?
I'm fine, thank you. Good morning.
Well done.
Thank you. May I know your name, please?
Kenneth Semanda is my name.
Semanda.
Yes.
Kindly proceed.
I'm among the luckiest few that Mr. Govi taught at Makerere University Business School. And he's in a very tight position. Mr. Govi, how are you today?
I'm better than you.
Yes, the economics used to teach us. You taught me Ugandan economy. Honestly, if this Mr. Govi, the PPS today, met the other Govi, they will fight each other. Because the other person you have in the studio used the word that actually now can you separate or differentiate a technocrat and a politician. Mr. Govi is now speaking like a politician, not a technocrat. So we kindly call you upon to give us the things you used to give us. The Mr. Govi who used to appear on VPN before he was made the PPS.
Thank you, Semanda. Let me move to you, Dickens. I don't know if you have any reactions to the concerns that have come through, but I'd also like to hear your thoughts, of course. As we are moving into this ambitious goal of $500 billion, certainly there are concerns about what trade-offs that we might actually have as a country. What are we letting go of? What are we prioritizing? What is going to take a back seat as we proceed? And also issues of equity. How inclusive will this growth be? Do you envisage everyone moving together, or do you see scenarios where perhaps you have the inequality gap widening further, and how can this be mitigated?
I think for me, I'm just looking at the future of our country. First and foremost, we must improve governance. And the governance actually can be dictatorship. As long as the dictatorship is clear and it is working for people. Or you can mobilize the rest of the citizens to make sure they are with you. As we speak today, the people are not with government. The government is investing, like as we said, I think the revenues, yes, they are collecting less, but they are still collecting more. They are borrowing more. Where we are investing the money, I don't know whether the government actually goes back to audit the return on investment where we are putting the money. And that is one area I think that you'll find, if you are investing in decentralization like local governments, what is the purpose of those local governments to improve the lives of the people? If you are investing, say, 11 trillion in the health sector and education sector, like what Mr. Biarhanga was saying, you can invest in building a structure. What are the mechanisms to ensure that the services within that structure are effective? You can invest in a building like structures for schools. You still have almost 60% dropouts, like at P7. When these young people actually drop out from school, and actually it will not matter how much you have invested, if you don't deal with the root cause of why those kids are getting out of school. When they get out of school, and at least these are experiences because we come from these villages, The girls, the boys go back there at the age of 16, 17, 18. They marry, they get married, they start producing. Our culture is that the family must divide the land for boys to make, and you find that, whether you are putting these wealth creation things, a family that has no land in a village, how would you expect that family to benefit from your wealth creation? So for me, even if we increase the GDP, we must deal with the problems that are undermining our capacity. The money that we are putting in the health sector, the other day you saw Justice Mdiagonja saying that even Murago, this is our referral. So if anyone is going to say we are investing this money in everything and we are going to benefit without auditing the return on investment, it is going to be very complicated. My last thing is about the corruption. I think the good thing, even government people are talking about corruption, it is distorting good plans of government. For you to get good companies that can give you the best services, you must ensure there is a good system. For you to, whether you collect money from people or you borrow the money, for you to benefit, to make sure you maximize the benefits of that money, you must deal with corruption. And to deal with corruption, I think for the PSSD who is here, the governance and the judiciary, there is a thing that is rating down Ugandans, is the judicial system of Uganda. If companies, for example, are here, maybe they are aggrieved and they go to the judiciary and they can't get the decisions within 2, 3, 4 years, and you are an investor, you are a businessman, you are waiting for a decision of court, it is going to be very complicated. So for me, I think the issue of corruption, the issue of governance is going to remain very critical. The last thing is about the elections that are coming up. How is it that the government is going to ensure that the politics is not going to create conditions to scare even those good investors? Because what happens if the politics is not good? You end up getting bad investors instead of getting good ones. And it is incumbent upon the government to ensure those politics that are messy are stopped.
Thank you.
It is incumbent upon the government to ensure the judicial system that can guarantee, that can create confidence is created.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Mr. Gobi, we're actually winding up now.
Yes. I wanted to respond briefly to Semana and wind up.
Your student, your former student.
My student is saying the technocratic Ramadan and the one who was in MOOBs, when they meet, they will have a World War III. Yeah. I think my student is the one now who's full of politics because he doesn't want to hear anything good. If that Ramadan came and said, everything is by the way, this side is so bad, Samanda would be wonderful, wonderfully happy. I wanted to make him know that Gobi is no longer a teacher, is now a tax collector. And tax collectors are not very loved people. Gobi is no longer a teacher, is now in charge of the little money needed to address so many problems, including Semanda's poverty and unemployment. And he must do, as opposed to talking on VPN, he must do a lot of things. There are a lot of expectations, but it's the same Ramadan Gobi who taught him. Finally, Dick here is very right on the corruption, but you see, corruption is fought not by activism or so on. Corruption is fought by good audits, forensic audits, and then ensuring that you enforce the recommendations of the audits, so that Big Brother watches all the time, and also by automating government systems. Everywhere in the world, people are corrupt, but the state puts in place this. And also, for me, that's what we are working on, to ensure that Uganda can get more automated, reduce interaction of people, but also ensure that you enforce when they are there are reports that someone has done something, those people should be punished. And that's how the only way which will work. Otherwise, the things we do in Uganda, that we are having ethics and integrity, sensitization, those redundant words we want to use a lot. Sensitization. There's one who has talked of sensitizing Ugandans on how to use the PDM money. No, we create incentives.
We need to wind up, Mr. Kobe.
I thank you very much, Horace,
Thank you.
Giving me the space.
And we always appreciate you for making time. I know how busy you are, but we do appreciate you for making time to be with us. VPN comes to an end. Thank you very, very much to my guests, the PSST, Mr. Ramadan Gobi, and Mr. Dickens Kamugisha, Executive Director, Africa Institute for Energy Governance. Thank you very much for your time. We've been talking about Uganda's $500 billion goal, and we're asking if it's a catalyst or an illusion on the road to economic destiny. VPN returns next Saturday, same time. From me to you, it is bye-bye. Have yourselves a wonderful weekend. We look forward to having you again another time, and to your listeners, we look forward to having you join us on this conversation. Bye-bye.